Hi. Well, this is the time of year that I get a lot of questions from people asking me if I get a flu shot or how I feel about the flu shot. And I get asked this question so often that I decided to put together a short video, not to give my opinion about this, but to talk a little bit about the science, because my firm belief is in informed consent and that things that go into your body should be beneficial to the body. Food should be nutritious and not full of what I call anti-nutrients, things like artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, preservatives. Those things really act like toxins in the body, and your body has to find a way to detoxify from those in order to function optimally. So let me tell you first a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to walk you through just a review of some pathogens, things like that. And then I'll tell you about the history of vaccines and the theory, and also some of the things that are included in vaccines that people may or may not be aware of. So my name is Dr. Patty Barch. I'm a traditional naturopath. I have 2 undergraduate degrees in animal science, a master's in biology, and 2 doctorates in natural health. I started my career in the biotechnology industry. I did cancer research for a global biotech company for 8 years and presented my research at the American Association for Cancer Research meeting. After that, I ended up as a biotechnology and animal science department head for a couple different high schools in Massachusetts, and was contracted by the Massachusetts Department of Education to write the biotechnology curriculum standards and the teacher certification test. So I have a very strong background in science, and this video is not for scientists. This video is going to be very basic and break down things into simple terms so that anyone can understand them and make an informed decision when it comes to vaccines for you and your family. So first of all, I've already done some very popular videos about viruses and about mask hygiene. This video is, like I said, it's about vaccines, but just to refresh your memory, if you haven't seen those other videos, I want to differentiate what a virus is versus a bacteria versus a toxin, because the 3 main types of vaccines are antiviral, antibacterial, or antitoxin. So a virus is a tiny strand of DNA or RNA in a protein shell, and what it does is it gets into your cell and into your own DNA, and it incorporates itself into your DNA and makes copies of itself. It has like a replay sequence in it, so that once it gets into your DNA, it makes copies of itself. So your cell fills up with viral particles and then eventually bursts, and then you have all these other viral particles that go out into the body and then infect other cells, make copies of themselves, etc. And that's how a virus spreads in the body. Bacteria, and I wanted to say about the size of a virus. So a virus is, okay, if you picture $1 million worth of dimes, a pile of dimes worth $1 million, a virus is the size of 1 dime, okay? So it's minuscule because it's DNA. So if you remember back into high school science class or middle school science class where you scraped your cheek cells and put them on a microscope and you could see the cell membrane, you could see the nucleus, and then inside the nucleus you really couldn't see much, right? But inside the nucleus is the chromosomes, and inside the chromosomes is the DNA, and then a tiny piece of that DNA, that's going to represent a virus, right? So super uber small. So then you have bacteria. So bacteria are much larger than a virus, like 10 plus times or 100 plus times, I don't remember the math, significantly larger. Like you can see a bacteria under a microscope. And so you have bacteria cells that live naturally in your body. There's bacteria all over the place. Some are beneficial, some are pathological. But there's also bacteria vaccines. And then the third type of vaccine is an antitoxin. So some of the viruses or some of the bacteria make a toxin. Either they produce it themselves or they produce it when they die. And the vaccine can be made sort of like an antidote to that toxin. So I want to tell you a little bit about vaccine history. So the very first vaccine was inspired through a medical doctor named Edward Jenner, and he made an observation that milkmaids who had been exposed to cowpox were not getting smallpox. So he hypothesized that there was something in the exposure to the cowpox that protected the milkmaids from smallpox, which at the time was killing a lot of people. So he did something that would never be legal today. He took a milkmaid, I think that worked for him, and he took cowpox venom, or not venom, but like pus really, and put it on a needle, and then he pricked her son's skin like a bunch of times with the pus from a cowpox. And then they exposed him to smallpox and he didn't get smallpox. So it kind of proved that, that could create immunity. So the thing was that's how it got the name actually. Vacca is Latin for cow. So vaccine came from cow because they found it in cowpox for smallpox treatment. So the big thing that I think people misunderstand about the way vaccines work is they think if you've had a vaccine, you can't catch the virus. And that's not exactly true, right? So I think it's not a force field. It's not a force field bubble that once you have this vaccine, you're like irradiating this big bubble so that viruses can't get into your nose. That's not how it works. You're still going to get the virus up your nose. You're still going to breathe the virus in. You're still going to get it in your eyes. However you're going to contract it, sexually transmitted, however the virus is transmitted, you're still going to get it in your body. The idea, the philosophy, and I'm not going to get into the efficacy of vaccines, but I'm just going to tell you the philosophy behind vaccines is just like what Edward Jenner did with this little boy with cowpox. It's supposed to introduce your body to a tiny amount of a usually damaged pathogen being a virus or a bacteria, and then it's supposed to teach your immune system how to fight that off. So in the real world, when you get naturally exposed to, we'll use a virus in this case, you get exposed to the virus gets in through your mucous membranes, it gets into some cells, it divides, it makes copies of itself. But your body has patrol cells that are going around your body and they're looking for bad guys. And when the body has a patrol cell that finds a cell that is infected with virus and it's getting big and puffy and they can tell that it's wrong, it tags it. So it puts a flag on it that says, hey, other white blood cells, get over here and chew this guy up. And so it attracts part of your immune system. Different types of cells in your immune system get attracted to the flags that get pushed onto these infected cells, and then your body's like, I know that guy, I know that bad guy, we fought him off before, and those other cells come in and they chew it up. So and certain pathogens work different ways because their DNA, they can mutate. And so what starts out as the flu in October can be a totally different flu by February. Just to summarize there, the way a vaccine is supposed to work, or the way your immune system works when it's exposed to a pathogen, is it identifies the pathogen as a problem, and it's like a never forget a face. Like, if I see you around here again, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna attack the cell that you're living in. And so the next year, if you get exposed to that virus again, your body's like, I remember you. I'm gonna send my friends over here to come and eat your face again, right? So that's how the immune system works. And then a vaccine is supposed to introduce your body to a tiny piece of that. The challenge is, remember, you still can get the virus in your nose and you can still shed virus, but hopefully, whether you're exposed naturally or artificially through vaccines, your body is supposed to be fighting it off. Now, here's where the difference between naturally acquired immunity and synthetically acquired immunity, where it lies, because within vaccines, there are things called excipients. And excipients are ingredients that are in the vaccine that are not the pathogen. So the pathogen, again, being the virus or the bacteria. So there's all kinds of chemicals that get put into vaccines because they're trying to elicit an immune response, right? They're trying to get your immune system to get a bunch of those flag tagging cells to come, tag a bunch of cells, and then to get these antibody cells to come in and chew them up. So the problem is when you add all these chemicals, you are really putting an unnatural challenge on the immune system. And some of these chemicals are highly toxic. Like, if you type in the name of the chemical and then MSDS for Material Safety Data Sheet in any kind of online search, you'll get a PDF form for that particular chemical. And then you can look it up and see, like, is it a neurotoxin? Has it been associated with autoimmune disease? Like, there's all kinds of scientific research and data out there. So in preparation to make this video, I just printed up US excipient vaccine summary. So this is like a lot of pages about different vaccines and what is included in them that I have concerns with, because I don't see them as being nourishing for the body. I see them as toxic to the body, and some of them are even known as neurotoxins, which means they involve the nervous system, like the brain and the spinal cord and that sort of thing. So before I got on this video, I just went through this sheet really quickly, and I just looked this up on the internet, so you can find it quite easily as well. Vaccine excipient summary. So I saw the DTaP vaccine, which is really common. This is one, they go in alphabetical order. So right away I see aluminum is in there, and aluminum is a heavy metal that has association with neurotoxicity. It's known to be toxic to the brain. It's why you'll see people in the natural health field not using aluminum foil, not using aluminum cookware, not wanting to drink out of aluminum cans, not using antiperspirant with aluminum in it, not using baking powder with aluminum in it, because aluminum, there's association with different neurological diseases, and it's not a nutrient. Next on the list, it also includes formaldehyde. So if you've got a little age on you like me, you remember when we did dissections in high school biology class, the animals were preserved in formaldehyde, which is actually a known carcinogen. It's known to cause cancer. Years later, when I worked in biotech, we used a type of formaldehyde that's supposed to be a little safer called formalin. And even when we used that, we had to use it in a fume hood. So that we weren't breathing in the vapors because it's toxic. And then one of the DTaP vaccines is called Infanrix, which makes me think it's for infants. That also has formaldehyde and aluminum. Has other things too, polysorbate 80, things like that. So there's all kinds of things here, but I just wanted to give you some of the other ones. So the Gardasil vaccine for human papillomavirus also contains aluminum and yeast protein, which is sometimes another name for MSG, or monosodium glutamate, which is known to cross the blood-brain barrier. Then there's the quadrivalent flu vaccine from 2019 has neomycin in it. Actually, a lot of these vaccines have neomycin, which is an antibiotic. And this one has hydrocortisone thimerosal. And thimerosal has mercury in it, which is also a known neurotoxin, toxic to the brain. So, I mean, I look through this list and I see formaldehyde, cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide, thimerosal, aluminum, monosodium glutamate, neomycin in a lot of these vaccines. And then some things that are a little more concerning. When you get to the MMR vaccine, it says ingredients, I'll just read you the whole list. Vitamins, woohoo, amino acids, fetal bovine serum, sucrose, glutamate, recombinant human albumin. So it's DNA from human blood that's been genetically modified. Neomycin, sorbitol, hydrolyzed gelatin, sodium phosphate, sodium chloride, and then WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts. So there's human lung cells in the MMR vaccine. That was a little surprising. And then the varicella, that's the chickenpox vaccine, has MRC5 human diploid cells, including DNA and protein, monosodium glutamate, neomycin. The shingles virus, MRC5 human diploid cells, monosodium glutamate, etc. So you can see there's a lot of things in vaccines that if you're concerned about the things that go into your body, you might be concerned about those ingredients. Only you and your doctor can make a decision about whether or not a vaccine is for you. But what I would recommend is before you get any vaccine, you either ask for the vaccine insert or download it from the manufacturer's website and then look up the material safety data sheet for each one of those excipients that are in there, so that you know exactly what it is and what the hazards are, and you can weigh the pros and cons of getting that vaccine. So to summarize, a vaccine is not a force field. It doesn't prevent you from getting a virus and even shedding a virus for a period of time. It only helps to, in theory, educate your immune system so that the next time it sees that pathogen, it's able to fight it off. Vaccines include basically 3 categories of ingredients, one being the pathogen, so usually a damaged or dead form of a virus or a bacteria. It also includes a preservative to help it to be shelf stable and to keep bacteria from growing in the vial, and then something called adjuvant. And adjuvant is the immune stimulating or part of the vaccine formula that is really it's an irritant. It's an irritant to your immune system. And so when your immune system responds to that irritant, which is, it's called an adjuvant, when it responds to that, and it makes antibodies against that particular pathogen, what can happen theoretically, especially you see there's some human cells in some of these vaccines, is that the DNA sequence of that particular virus or the human recombinant cells or diploid lung fibroblasts that are in there, if the DNA sequence of those cells is pretty similar to a DNA sequence of another cell in your body, like a thyroid cell, cartilage cell, a pancreas cell, a kidney cell, there's the potential for what's called an autoimmune disease, where that vaccine introduced a strand of DNA from, an outside source and an irritant called an adjuvant to help your body to get mad at it and form antibodies against it. But if that little piece of DNA from that vaccine is a match or a close to a match for other cells in your body, there may be the risk of your cells making antibodies against your own body, your own cells, which is called an autoimmune disease. So that's a 19-minute, be about 20 minutes by the time I wrap this up, but that's, a 20-minute video just to introduce you to the theory behind vaccines, the vaccine history, how they're supposed to work, how your immune system works, and what pathogens are and how they function. So I hope that you find this useful. My number one goal of making this video is simply to inspire you to become fully educated about the risks and benefits of vaccines before making the decision. And when you make the decision, you can feel good about it, no matter what it is, because you've done your research. So thank you for listening. Please feel free to share this video.